"Take it off." The shout echoed off the vaulted ceilings like a gunshot. Ariana froze halfway down the grand staircase, her hand gripping the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. Dante Cruz stood at the bottom, his chest heaving, a glass of whiskey crushed in his hand until it threatened to shatter. He wasn't looking at her face. He was staring at the red dress with a look that was pure, unadulterated fury. "I gave you one rule," he snarled, taking the stairs 2 at a time, his heavy boots thudding against the marble like a countdown. "One rule. Be invisible." He stopped on the step directly below her, looming over her frame, his dark eyes blazing. "Does this look invisible to you, Ariana?" He gestured violently at the silk clinging to her curves, the slit running up her thigh, the way the crimson fabric made her skin glow under the chandelier light. "You look like a walking death sentence." Ariana trembled, her back pressed against the banister, trapped between the drop and the devil. I have somewhere to go. It is my night off. I don't care if it's your funeral." Dante slammed his hand against the railing next to her hip, boxing her in. The smell of expensive alcohol and gunpowder filled her senses. His voice dropped to a terrifying, lethal whisper. "You have no idea what men like me do to women who look like you. Now go upstairs and burn it. Before I do it for you." Ariana swallowed, tears pricking her eyes, but she didn't move. She raised her chin, her voice shaking but defiant. "No." Dante blinked, the shock of her refusal cutting through his rage. The air between them grew instantly thin, charged with a voltage that could stop a heart. "Excuse me?" he breathed, his eyes narrowing into slits. "I said no," she whispered, stepping down one step so she was finally eye level with him. "I am not your property, Dante, and I am not taking it off." For a second, the only sound in the penthouse was the hum of the refrigerator in the distant kitchen and the pounding of Ariana's own heart. She had just defied the most dangerous man in the city. Dante stared at her, his eyes searching hers for a crack in the armor, a sign of the submissive maid he had known for 6 months. He found none. The silence stretched, agonizing and electric, until the air felt too thin to breathe. Then, slowly, the rage in his face fractured into something else, something darker. He didn't step back, but the violent tension in his shoulders dropped an inch. He leaned in, his mouth brushing her ear, his voice a cold caress that sent a shiver straight down her spine. "Fine," he whispered. "Go. Play dress up in a world that eats innocent things alive. But when the wolves come for you, Ariana, don't scream for me." He pulled back abruptly, turning his back on her with military precision. "Get out of my sight." Ariana didn't wait to be told twice. She rushed past him, her heels clicking rapidly against the marble, the sound echoing like gunfire. She didn't look back at the man standing alone in the shadows, nursing his whiskey and his wrath. She grabbed the heavy handle of the front door and pulled it open, stepping out into the cool night air. But as the door clicked shut behind her, inside the penthouse, Dante didn't move. He stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, listening to the silence returning. He raised the glass to his lips, downed the burning liquid in one swallow, and then hurled the crystal glass against the far wall. It shattered into 1,000 glittering pieces. He pulled his phone from his pocket, his thumb hovering over a contact. He didn't call the police. He didn't call his driver. He dialed the head of his security detail. "Follow her," he growled into the phone. "If anyone touches her, put a bullet in them, and get the car ready. I'm going out." The St. Regis Hotel ballroom was a sea of black tuxedos and pastel gowns, a playground for the city's elite. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto the crowd, and a string quartet played something soft and forgettable in the corner. When Ariana walked in, the music didn't stop, but the atmosphere shifted. The red dress was a scream in a room full of whispers. It hugged her frame like a second skin, the slit revealing just enough leg to be scandalous, the backless cut exposing the smooth curve of her spine. She kept her head high, clutching her small purse, trying to find the check-in table for the scholarship interview. She felt the eyes before she heard the voices. "Is that The help? A woman in a beige gown murmured behind a champagne flute, not bothering to lower her voice. It's Cruz's maid. A man chuckled darkly. Looks like she raided the lost and found. Ariana's grip on her purse tightened. Her confidence, which had felt so ironclad in the mirror, began to crack. She was an outsider here. She wasn't one of them. She was just pretending. She moved toward the balcony doors, needing air, needing to escape the heavy weight of their judgment. She pushed the glass doors open and stepped out onto the terrace. The city skyline glittered before her, indifferent and cold. You look like you're regretting your choices, sweetheart. The voice was smooth, like velvet wrapped around a jagged rock. Ariana spun around. Leaning against the stone railing was a man she didn't know, but his aura was familiar. It was the same dangerous, predatory energy that Dante exuded, but without Dante's restraint. This man smiled too much. His tuxedo was midnight blue, and his eyes were like chips of ice. I'm fine, Ariana said, stepping back toward the doors. Excuse me. The man moved faster than she expected. He blocked her path, not touching her, but close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive musk and stale tobacco. I'm Adrian, he said, extending a hand she didn't take. Adrian Voss. And you must be the little bird Dante keeps in his cage. Ariana's blood ran cold. Voss. She knew the name. She had cleaned up files in Dante's study with that name on them. Files stamped with terminate. He wasn't just a stranger. He was the enemy. I don't know who you're talking about, she lied, her voice steady despite the trembling in her knees. Adrian laughed, a dry, humorless sound. He took a step closer, invading her personal space. Don't play coy. You live in the penthouse. You serve his coffee. You make his bed. His eyes dropped to the neckline of her dress. Does he let you warm it too? Get out of my way, Ariana snapped, anger overriding her fear. Or what? Adrian sneered, his mask of charm slipping. He reached out, his fingers grazing her bare shoulder. His touch was cold and repulsive. You think Dante Cruz cares about you? You're a servant. A prop. If I took you right now, he wouldn't start a war over a maid. Ariana slapped his hand away. Don't touch me. Feisty? Adrian grinned, grabbing her wrist this time, his grip like a vice. I like that. Maybe you should come work for me. Pay better. And I let my staff wear whatever they want. Ariana struggled, pulling against his grip, panic rising in her throat. The balcony was secluded. The music inside drowned out her gasp. Let her go. The command didn't come from the door. It came from the shadows of the terrace corner. Adrian froze. Ariana's heart stopped. Dante stepped into the light. He wasn't wearing a tuxedo. He was still in his black tactical dress shirt. The sleeves rolled up to reveal the tattoos on his forearms, his trench coat billowing in the wind. He looked like a reaper who had crashed a wedding. He didn't look at Ariana. His eyes were locked on Adrian's hand, the hand holding her wrist. Dante, Adrian said, his smile faltering but not disappearing. I was just getting to know your staff. I count to 3, Dante said softly. He took a step forward. 1. Come on, Cruz. We're in public. The board is inside. 2. Dante's hand drifted to his belt. Adrian's eyes flickered with genuine fear. He released Ariana's wrist instantly, holding his hands up in a mock surrender. All right, relax. Just checking the merchandise. The word hung in the air like poison. Dante moved. It was a blur of motion. 1 second he was 5 feet away. The next, he had Adrian pinned against the stone railing, his forearm crushing Adrian's throat. Ariana gasped, hand over her mouth. She is not merchandise. Dante hissed into Adrian's face, his voice trembling with a rage so profound it was terrifying. She is the only clean thing in this entire city. If you ever look at her again, if you even speak her name in your sleep, I will cut your tongue out. He shoved Adrian back. The rival boss stumbled, coughing, fixing his tie with shaking hands. He glared at Dante, then at Ariana. his eyes filled with humiliation and a promise of vengeance. "You're slipping, Dante," Adrian wheezed, backing away toward the exit. "Getting emotional over the help. It's going to get you killed." He disappeared back into the party. Dante stood there, chest heaving, his back to Ariana. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of pure frustration. "Dante," Ariana whispered. He turned on his heel. He didn't ask if she was okay. He didn't offer comfort. He marched over to her, grabbed her hand. His grip firm but not painful, and pulled her toward the service exit. "We are leaving. Now." The drive home was suffocating. Dante drove the black Maybach like he was trying to outrun a demon. The city lights blurred into streaks of neon. The engine roared, eating up the asphalt. Ariana sat in the passenger seat, rubbing her wrist where Adrian had grabbed her. The silence in the car was heavy, filled with unspoken words. "You embarrassed me," she said finally, her voice small but cutting through the quiet. Dante gripped the steering wheel so hard the leather creaked. "I embarrassed you? I just saved your life, Ariana. I could have handled it." "Handled it?" Dante laughed, a sharp, bitter bark. He slammed on the brakes at a red light, turning to face her. His eyes were wild. "You think a slap on the wrist stops a man like Adrian Voss? He wasn't flirting with you, Ariana. He was marking you. He smells weakness like a shark smells blood. And tonight, you walked in there smelling like me. So that's it." Ariana shouted back, tears of frustration finally spilling over. "I'm just a pawn in your war? A liability?" "Yes," Dante roared. The word echoed in the confined space of the car. Ariana recoiled, pressing herself against the door. Dante looked at her, seeing the fear in her eyes, and his expression crumbled. The anger drained out of him, leaving him looking exhausted and older than his years. He looked away, staring out the windshield at the rain starting to fall. "Yes," he said again, his voice dropping to a broken whisper. "You are a liability. Because when I saw him touching you, when I saw his hands on you," he took a shaky breath, "I didn't think about the business. I didn't think about the truce. I just wanted to burn the whole world down to get him off you." Ariana stared at him, her heart skipping a beat. The admission hung in the air between them, raw and terrifying. "Dante," she breathed. He refused to look at her. "I told you to be invisible because I can't afford to care about you. I can't afford to have a weakness. And you." He finally turned his head, his dark eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that burned. "You are the biggest weakness I have ever had." Ariana reached out, her hand hovering over his clenched fist on the gearshift. The air in the car shifted. The anger was gone, replaced by a magnetic pull that had been building for months. "Maybe," she whispered, "I don't want to be invisible anymore." Dante watched her hand. He started to unclench his fist, turning his palm up to meet hers. His fingers brushed against her skin, calloused and warm. Screech. The moment shattered. Headlights flooded the rearview mirror. Blinding. "Close." Dante's eyes snapped to the mirror. "Get down." He threw his arm across her chest, pinning her to the seat, just as the back window exploded. Crack boom. Glass rained down on them like diamonds. The sound of automatic gunfire erupted from the car behind them. "Hold on," Dante screamed. He slammed the car into gear, flooring the gas. The Maybach surged forward, 500 horsepower screaming against the wet pavement. He swerved violently into the oncoming lane to bypass a truck, the car drifting sideways. "What is happening?" Ariana screamed, covering her head as another bullet pinged off the side door. "Voss!" Dante shouted over the roar of the engine. He decided not to wait for the next board meeting. He spun the wheel hard to the right, taking a corner so fast the tires smoked. They were in the industrial district now, dark alleys, shipping containers, dead ends. "Dante, there's another one." Ariana pointed ahead. A black SUV blocked the road in front of them, men hanging out the windows with rifles. "Trust me," Dante said, his face setting into a mask of cold determination. He didn't slow down. He sped up, Dante! Dante! Heads down! Dante aimed the heavy armored car straight at the gap between the SUV and a concrete pillar. He clipped the enemy car, metal shrieking against metal, sparks flying in a shower of gold. The impact threw them sideways, but the heavy sedan plowed through, spinning out into a deserted warehouse loading dock. The car slammed to a halt, steam hissing from the radiator. Silence. Then, the sound of doors opening from the chase cars behind them. Dante kicked his door open. He didn't look terrified. He looked like he was in his element. He reached under his seat and pulled out a handgun, then reached across and popped the glove box, pulling out a spare magazine. He looked at Ariana. There was blood on his temple from the glass, running down his cheek. "Can you run in those heels?" he asked, his voice eerily calm. Ariana looked at her shoes, then at him. She reached down, unbuckled the straps and kicked them off. She stood barefoot on the car mat. "Yes," she said. Dante smirked, a flash of the charming, dangerous man she had rarely seen. "Good girl. When I start shooting, you run for that blue door. Do not stop. Do not look back." "I'm not leaving you," she said, her voice trembling. Dante leaned in, grabbing the back of her neck, pulling her forehead against his. "You are not leaving me, Ariana. You are going to open the door so I can get us both out. Now move." He turned and fired 3 shots into the darkness. Bang, bang, bang. Ariana scrambled out of the car into the wet, cold night. The pavement was rough against her bare feet, but she didn't feel it. She ran. Behind her, the chaotic symphony of a gunfight erupted. She heard Dante shouting commands, heard the return fire pinging off the car. She reached the heavy blue metal door. Locked. "Dante!" she screamed, panic seizing her throat. She turned around. Dante was moving backward toward her, firing with precision, taking cover behind a dumpster. But there were too many of them. For men were advancing, pinned down but moving closer. One of them rose up, aiming not at Dante, but at the door. Her. "No!" Dante roared. He broke cover. He abandoned his safety, sprinting across the open ground to get between the gunman and Ariana. He tackled her into the alcove of the door just as bullets chewed up the concrete where she had been standing. They crashed against the metal door, the impact popping the old rusted lock. They tumbled inside, falling onto a dusty concrete floor. Dante kicked the door shut and slammed the heavy deadbolt home. He collapsed against the wall, sliding down until he hit the floor. He was breathing hard, gasping for air. "Are you hit?" he wheezed, grabbing her arm, checking her over frantically. "Did they get you?" I'm fine. Ariana was crying now, the adrenaline crashing. She looked at him. His white shirt was stained red, but not from the glass. There was a dark, spreading stain on his side. "Dante, you're bleeding." He looked down at his ribs, touching the blood. He winced, then looked back up at her with a crooked, pained smile. "Ruined the shirt," he muttered. "Shame. I liked this one." Ariana let out a sob that was half-laugh. She crawled over to him, her hands hovering over the wound. "We need to stop the bleeding." "My safe house," Dante gritted out, pointing down a dark corridor, 3 blocks under the tunnels. "We have to move." He tried to stand and stumbled. Ariana caught him. She was half his size, but adrenaline gave her strength. She pulled his arm over her shoulder. "Lean on me," she commanded. Dante looked at her. Barefoot, dress torn, makeup smeared, supporting the weight of a mafia boss. "You really didn't listen to the invisible rule, did you?" he whispered. "Shut up and walk, Dante," she said. Together, they limped into the darkness of the tunnels, leaving the sirens and the violence behind them. But in the quiet dark, the real danger was just beginning to stir, because the person helping Dante walk wasn't just a maid, and the secret she was carrying was heavier than the gun in his pocket.